Hello and welcome back to the Mind and Money podcast. I'm Sherry, a financial coach.
And I'm Val, a financial planner. And today we are talking about lifestyle creep. So Sherry, can you explain to our listeners what the most basic definition is of lifestyle creep?
Yeah, the easiest way to explain it is that we increase our spending when our income increases. So whether that's through raises or a new job, it is an increase in income without any extra money going to savings or towards debt. Basically, we let that raise or increase in income be eaten up by increasing our spending. So whether we're spending a lot more on small things or whether we have a significant upgrade, like moving to a bigger, more expensive home with a bigger mortgage payment, It's just more income, more spending. And there's definitely some long-term impacts to that. Val, can you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So when we're looking at not kind of giving any love to our debt repayment or our investing / savings, even though our income is increasing, which is fantastic. And right now, I'm sure a lot of us are going to say, but the economy, inflation, things are expensive. And I hear you. But we still have to be mindful and look at putting money away for the future. Because a couple of different pieces. In the short term, there's the tax efficiency in terms of investing and putting money away now. Tax time is nicer next year. In the long term, though, if we can put a little bit more away now, it gives it that much more time to grow. So yes, it's nice. It's more gratifying now to spend more now. But in the long term, it's the long game, baby. It's the long game. So putting that money away, even though it's really exciting to see that kind of net deposit into our account, set up that automatic investing strategy. Please get it out of your hands and put it away for your future self.
Yep. And the reality of lifestyle creep is that because it can be so gradual too, it's often unnoticed. So if we get a 3% raise, or if we're in a relationship, our spouse or partner gets a 3% raise, that easily gets eaten up, but doesn't really add value to your life, right? It's not like you're doubling your income in this situation and able to add some significant upgrades. It's just, it gets lost in the busyness of your finances, and a really good thing to do. And it's hard to think about, okay, I got a 3% raise. What does that actually reflect on my take-home pay? But being able to look at comparing one pay to the next when you have that raise, think about like, what does that take-home change by? And how can you find balance? I know you're probably thinking like, Sherry, 3%, it's not that much. But when you look at, even if you take half of that raise and put half of that raise towards like debt payment or long-term investing, and put half of it into your budget, so there's some more wiggle room, that can have a really big long-term impact. So one of the things that my husband and I did, and we used to work at the same place for years and years, so when we would get a raise, it would be at the same time, is look at, okay, what does that change look like as far as what we're bringing home? And then one of the things we did that made a big impact is we started making tiny little extra payments on our mortgage. So we were increasing our biweekly payment by about half of what our raise was. And I know maybe this isn't for everybody, but I get really excited when you go in, and our mortgage website it gave really clear feedback. Like, if you increase your payment by this much, here's how much interest you'll save and how much time you'll take off the length of your mortgage. And that was really motivating for me to be able to see, this is a significant impact, because we were early in our mortgage during some of those adjustments. And it was really, really amazing to see that little bits regularly has a significant impact, just as much as larger, less frequent extra payments towards debt or putting into savings.
It's less painful. It's less painful when it's in the small pieces. And it's just like lifestyle creep. It's easy to not notice, just like putting a bit more away or putting a bit more towards debt. It's easy to not notice in that cash flow, but how it impacts us down the road amplifies. So it's either we're in bigger trouble we're in a better position, we're in less debt.
Yep.
So divvying it up. When clients of mine, we just recently talked about this, they received a bonus. So we looked at, okay, tax efficiency wise, where does this make the most sense going? They also like, and I encouraged them wanted to use some of it for something fun. So it was a family weekend away. Perfect. So we kind of look at it as, again, that pie, and we carve it up. So a chunk went into investments, a chunk went into savings, and then a piece of it went into going towards this family vacation that they're going to
Yeah.
go on. So just
I
don't
love
let it
that
slip through your
balance.
fingers.
Yeah, I love that balance. And then one thing too is when it is a raise and it's more regular on every paycheck, being able to, so you're not getting that now, say you get your raise next pay.
Mm-hmm.
If you automatically move that money somewhere every payday, it's just like you didn't get that raise. So if you continue to live like that, nothing changes as far as your income because you're still spending that same amount, but you've diverted a little bit of that raise towards something long term. So that value of adding it into your budget isn't as impactful and you won't feel it as much as you will feel it 5 years, 10 years down the road. And I know it's hard to
I know.
think about it 5 or 10 years down the road. And you think, well, today would be really nice to have that extra $50 per paycheck or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like moving and thinking about future self, which is really challenging for individuals with ADHD because we don't really have a firm concept of that future self because we just live very much in the now, and being able to just like put it away so it's out of sight, out of mind, which is another thing that you can use to your advantage when it comes to money and ADHD, to understand what can you do to set yourself up for long-term financial success. And so many people too, it's getting to be that time of the year for some individuals, depending on what your annual income is, Canadians specifically, when you get to the point where you've paid off your CPP and your EI, a lot of times that goes unnoticed. And yes, you can stay out of my comments if you are a very high income earner and you maxed out your CPP and your EI in February. I love that for you, but that's not common. So being able to look at that mostly later in the year for your fellow Canadians and see, like, when did you pay off your CPP and EI, and having a plan for that extra money, because when we divert that extra money again into something that doesn't roll into our lifestyle, it's much easier when January 1st hits again and our first paycheck after that has that CPP and EI coming off again. It's much less of a shock because I've heard from so many people like, yeah, my paycheck is a lot less. Like, what happened? So if I start working with a client at the end of the year, we see their income, and then January hits. Sometimes it's like my paycheck is $200 or $300 less. Like, what the fuck happened? It's like, oh, let's look at your pay stub.
Yeah.
And then we do some forward planning too to say, okay, let's look at that January 1st pay stub. Let's calculate approximately when in this calendar year you'll pay off your CPP and EI, and like add a reminder to your phone, add something in your calendar so that you are actively looking at that pay, seeing what the increase is, and then doing something with it so it doesn't roll back into your spending.
Which leads really well into, how do I know I'm in lifestyle creep? How do I become aware of it, become more mindful? It starts with looking at your numbers, and we will preach it until the day we die. It's not reinventing the wheel, to your point, Sherry. It's paying attention to what comes in, what goes out. And often that CPP and EI maxing, even though we kind of know our pay, not everyone remembers it down to the dollars and cents. So when it does max out, we're like, yeah, okay. And then January, we're like, oh yeah, that happens. It's going back down. So get in tune with your numbers. Look at your numbers. See tracking, however it works for you. Pay attention to what's going on, or it'll kick you in the butt.
Or like run through your fingers, which is exactly what lifestyle creep is. And like, we want you to look at all of your numbers. Of course, I know you've heard, if you've been a long time listener, we thank you. And we know we can sometimes feel like we're preaching, but this one, you only have to look at your income numbers. So if you're an employee, look at your pay stub, especially if you're an hourly employee or if you have any type of like bonus or things that should be added to your paycheck. It is important to look at that regularly, because the number of times that I missed hours, full shifts of overtime were missed, like, nobody is perfect. And the person doing your payroll does not care as much about what deposits in your bank account as you do. So it's important to look at your pay stub to understand, is it correct? Is there anything missing? Did somebody else screw up, and do I need to follow up on this? And in the same respect, if you're an entrepreneur, I know you don't want to do this, but regular bookkeeping to understand, how has your income changed month to month, year to year, and the same with your expenses. And it can be so much more difficult for an entrepreneur to really understand when they've seen an increase in their income, because a lot of entrepreneurs, I see you, I'm looking at you, have their business and personal commingled. They're not paying themselves consistently. They're just pulling kind of as needed from their business, so they don't have clarity on what's going on. So I encourage you, if there's any room in your budget and you want to avoid your business finances like the plague, bringing in somebody in a bookkeeping capacity so that they can be updating things for you, so that when tax time comes, you're ready. They can, like, often part of the process is them sharing a profit and loss statement with you, like year to date and for the month, so that you can really see, like, oh crap, yeah, my income has increased. I haven't felt it. So what's going on? So
yes, where's it going?
Where is it going?
Where is it going?
Yeah, like, one of the biggest challenges I hear from clients and from anybody I have random money conversations with is that they don't know where their income is going, because, like, head in the sand, we want to avoid it. We don't have a lot of wiggle room. We don't feel it, so we want to avoid it. But with the clients, when we start working with them, we look at where the money is going, and then they make some intentional shifts with it, and it feels like they got a raise even if they didn't, because
they're just more aware.
That awareness is really key. And we know you don't like hearing it, but it's time to get your head out of the sand. If you don't know where your money is going, if you're self-employed and you don't know, like, we're getting close to the end of the year, if you don't know where you are financially this calendar year, it's time to roll up your sleeves. Don't wait for tax time to figure out that you made like twice as much money this year as you did last year, and you don't feel the impact of it.
Let's start paying attention.
Let's start paying attention.
Lifestyle creep, it's when our lifestyle continues with our income increases, but our responsible financial decisions do not. Watch for it. Pay attention to your numbers. Check your pay stubs. If you're a self-employed person, get a bookkeeper. Anything else you'd add on there, Sherry?
And if you're not in the place where you can get a bookkeeper, like, you have to first have a separate bank account. Please, for the love of all things, separate your business and personal, because it makes the bookkeeping tax part so much easier. And pay attention. I know it sounds like we're on repeat, but we get to see what it looks like when somebody goes from not paying attention to paying attention. And it's very impactful, and it helps people save more, pay off debt, live aligned with what they want and how their money is spent, and having more money for the things they love, and not always feeling like, oh, I don't want to look at my money because it's just all bills, because we put a little fun in there too.
Yes, within the organization, there is freedom. It just is contradictory in our minds, but it works.
Yeah, budget's not about restriction, about financial flexibility and freedom, because when you know, you can make changes, and when you don't know, you're just on that hamster wheel and you can't get off until you peel back all the layers. So watch for that lifestyle creep. Pay attention when you get a raise or a bonus or a tax refund or anything like that. I encourage you to really be intentional with it and do something with it that's going to have long-term financial impact. And I love the idea of breaking it up into multiple things and having a little fun with it too, because then it encourages you long-term to look at your numbers too, so that you can add more fun in on a regular basis.
You said it. Thanks for listening to our episode about lifestyle creep.
And we will see you next time on the Mind and Money podcast.